The year is 1996. The Macarena is the hottest thing on the block, and the debut season of one of the greatest cartoons ever conceived just aired. Oh yeah, shouts to Hey Arnold too. Another banger gracing the television this year for the first time that would also leave its mark on a generation. Part of this generation would include myself, a little 5-year-old kid with the whole wide world in front of him. Or I guess I should say a soon-to-be 5-year-old, as today marks a day of celebration for my arrival in this little ball of mass in the universe that we've decided to call Earth. I had just completed my 80% run of preschool, and given that my peers there were really my only social interactions with other kids around my age besides my brother, naturally, they comprised a lot of the party's attendance that my parents were throwing me. After some time jumping around to my heart's content and the moon bounce, the time for cake and presents came. Most of the kids from my preschool class were barely more than strangers to me, so of course this meant a lot of the presents received weren't the most personal and basically just a shot in the dark from parents trying to guess what other little kids like. Some presents slapped, some didn't, and some were cool rock collections that I still like to dig up at my parents' house every handful of years when I'm in the mood to reminisce on simpler times. Eventually everyone left, and all that remained were leftover plates of half-eaten cake to throw away and memories that would last a lifetime. The day was not yet over, however, as while I absolutely had a great time, in a case of parental sixth sense, my parents could pick up on the sensation that I perhaps wasn't fully satisfied in the present department. I mean, I was, but there's something to be said about being able to pick out exactly what you want instead of being given something without any say and feeling like you have to like it simply just because it's a gift. My dad would then go on to say a magical sentence that would surely light up the exuberant eyes of most kids around the world. Hey, let's go to the mall and I'll let you pick out a game. The 5-minute car ride there seemed like an eternity given my anticipation and excitement. Once we arrived, we took the most efficient route to a little place where dreams come true. No, not Star Hill, but a place that for a brief period in time was like a real-life equivalent of it. KB Toys. The huge display of pristinely cased Super Nintendo boxes behind the counter was truly a sight to behold. While I was too young back then to understand the concept of heaven, I realize now that little pockets of it exist on this planet in moments like this. Being as young as I was, I obviously didn't have the best grasp on the gaming landscape and didn't really know what I was looking for other than something that just looked cool or fun. There was one familiar face I did recognize, however, and that face of course belonged to everyone's favorite mustached Italian plumber with a knack for jumping. You see, the previous year my mom had entered in one of those raffles at grocery stores that you would never expect to win. This one was for Super Nintendo. In a stunning turn of events, I guess that Lady Luck decided to target her with a spell and buff her luck stat as she ended up winning. With the console also came a copy of Super Mario World, and I'll never forget the first time laying my eyes on that extremely colorful, beautiful world. Before that, my only experience with video games came from the original Nintendo with Duck Hunt and getting my 4-year-old ass kicked by Great Tiger and Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. It's so easy to dodge now with that damn Tiger Punch, man. Anyway, back to KB Toys. Mario caught my eye like I was saying, however, some things seemed different about him this time. I pointed the game out to my dad. Super Mario RPG, The Legend of the 7 Stars, that one? Right off the bat, the name instantly sounded insanely cool to me. Needless to say, I didn't know what RPG meant though, and neither did my dad. When he asked the guy at the front counter about it, he explained to us that RPG stood for role-playing game and that this Mario title was unlike any other in the series before it. He said something about it requiring more strategy and how it might be too complex for a kid my age. Naturally, that only made me want it more. Challenge accepted. The entire car ride home was spent admiring the box and flipping through the instruction manual, looking at all the colorful pictures and pre-immersing myself into the game's world. When we finally got home to boot it up, I was greeted to an at the time mind-blowing CGI cutscene involving Princess Peach, or Princess Toadstool as she was still known as back then, picking some flowers as butterflies flutter around her right before Bowser takes her away. Thankfully, our main man Mario is here to save the day. It then pans over to Bowser's castle as we take control upon entering. Instantly, things felt very different. No longer was there a 2D level to simply just scroll right through. Instead, we got Mario in a 3D isometric environment battling enemies while taking turns. Of course, at the time, I didn't understand any of this terminology. The only thing that registered in my young mind was, this is weird. Not a bad weird though, a good weird. My dad was on the same page as he was right there alongside me, figuring it out with me. While I didn't really comprehend much of anything going on, I was still enthralled all the same. Why did the screens change after touching enemies? Who were these enemies? Why were we taking turns? What are these various commands hovering around Mario? So many questions, yet so little answers. Eventually, after crossing a fiery lava pit, we make it to an elegant white throne room and meet up with our arch nemesis. We then get into an epic battle on top of these massive chandeliers. Attacking Bowser directly doesn't work, so we instead have to attack the chain attached to the chandelier, causing it to fall. I realize now this is likely a reference to Super Mario Bros. With how you never actually attack Bowser yourself, and instead attack the environment around him to emerge victorious. Same concept here. Finally, the chandelier falls, and with that, Bowser goes with it. We can't celebrate too soon though, as with the throw of a lifetime, Bowser knocks down our chandelier as well with a hammer. We join him on the free fall downwards, Bowser starts crying and then tries one more desperation attack. We swiftly dodge it, use his head as a trampoline, and then catapult ourselves back up to the princess. Well, would you looky here, it looks like the day is saved already. Certainly a shorter experience than I was expecting, but wait, what's this? The way that giant sword strikes into the castle with the 7 stars circling around it as a mysterious melody plays in the background, I'll never forget this core memory. The sense of intrigue was off the charts and I was absolutely hooked. This would serve as a metaphor for how the game had its hold on me. I played this game a lot, and I mean a lot. I played it so much that my mom would even hide it from me sometimes. Little did she know though that I eventually found the hiding spot in the back of the china cabinet that we would use twice a year. I'm sorry, Mom. With that said, Super Mario RPG was not the only Super Nintendo game that I was obsessed with. I was quite the Mega Man X fiend, and I can't even begin to count how many hours I sunk into Street Fighter 2 with my brother and his friend Brandon. Though Evan probably doesn't like to remember that one time he accidentally tripped over the power cord, knocking it out of the socket when Brandon's older brother was on Bison. Anyway, now these games were amazing, but nothing grabbed me in the way that Super Mario RPG did. Being as young as I was, my dad had to help me out with various parts of the game, like certain boss fights, figuring out where to go next, and that damn password puzzle in the sunken ship. God, that had me stumped for so long. Because of this though, I just have so many cherished memories with this game. It set me down a path of RPGs and helped shape me into the person that I am today. Pokemon Blue was next, before I eventually started diving into more serious RPGs such as Legend of Legaia and the Wild Arms series. Actually, you know what? To give you guys a better idea of how Super Mario RPG helped shape my interest and love for the genre over the years, Evan, my dude, cue the intro.
The light is your guide.
The dream is what keeps you going.
Okay, maybe more of an intermission rather than an intro this time, but yeah, you get the idea. As you can see, Super Mario RPG served as quite the gateway for the Japanese role-playing game.
Super Mario RPG! Super Famicom が4000円安くなるクーポン券付き!
It's a vast world of creativity, imagination, and adventure, and I have to count my 7 lucky stars for being introduced to it all so early on. I'm sure most of you recognize multiple Squaresoft titles from our intro. Out of all the gaming developers, they probably had the biggest impact on my childhood. How fitting is it that they would also play an integral role in introducing me to the role-playing genre? You see, Super Mario RPG was not just a Nintendo game. It was a joint effort between them and Squaresoft. With the Final Fantasy series, Chrono Trigger, and many others, Squaresoft was the undisputed king of RPGs at this moment in time, so them teaming up with Nintendo, a company not known for making RPGs, probably seemed like a pretty random combination to most people. However, as history has shown us time and time again, sometimes it's those unlikely duos that can make the best pairs. This case was no exception. When you take Squaresoft's framework for an amazing RPG and combine it with Nintendo's charm and recognizability of their characters, you get an absolutely magical experience. You can very clearly see both developers' style at play here, and it all works so incredibly well. One of the things I love most about this game is how it feels like a Mario game, but it also doesn't. Like, yeah, you got Mario, Toad, Bowser, the princess, Goombas, but then there's also a lot of other random unique creatures making their first and only appearance here. Some of the monster design is very creative and even a little bit more mature than what you normally see in a Mario game. It really gives this specific Mario title its own flavor and identity. It's not just the monsters, but the characters too. Characters like Croc, Booster, Jonathan Jones, and the Axum Rangers are all extremely memorable to me. Then on the good guys side, you got characters like Mallow and Geno. I mean, Mallow is awesome, don't get me wrong. But Geno, dude, easily one of the coolest characters ever to appear in a Mario game. Even all of his early concept art looks super cool. All these years later, he's still a huge fan favorite and people are still clamoring for him to be in Smash Bros. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna call it now. After the success of the remake, it's gonna happen at some point. Just watch. But yeah, Square and Nintendo created some timeless characters here. This also lends itself to the special atmosphere this game has. Another big contributor to this is the music. The absolute legend Yoko Shimomura composed the score here, and she did an incredible job. Who is she, you ask? Oh, just the person behind the music in Street Fighter II, the Kingdom Hearts series, the Mario and Luigi series, Parasite Eve, Legend of Mana, Final Fantasy XV, and many, many more. She perfectly encapsulates the whimsical nature of this fantastical world. I just really can't tell you enough how much I appreciate the atmosphere in this game. Even the little features like the dialogue boxes and the Super Nintendo controller layout and battle come together to create just such a strong aesthetic. Speaking of battle, this is another aspect where Super Mario RPG really shines. Square knew that a lot of younger players that had never played an RPG before would likely be playing this game. They had the awareness to realize, okay, we need to find a way to make turn-based battles a little bit more engaging for them. So, what did they do? They created the ingenious idea of timed hits. To my knowledge, this is the first RPG ever to feature this mechanic. Essentially, you just have to press a button or series of buttons at the right time to do more damage. It's a simple but effective way to engage the player. Different characters and different spells all have their own timing too. To this day, it still remains one of my favorite systems to implement this mechanic. Some later RPGs would try to be a little bit too complex for their own good in my opinion, and to me, simplicity is key here. This would become such a beloved feature that it basically became a staple for future Mario RPGs such as the Paper Mario series and the Mario and Luigi series. Both of these series were spiritual successors of Super Mario RPG, however, neither were developed by Square. Instead, Paper Mario was created by Intelligent Systems, the team behind the Fire Emblem series, whereas the company Alpha Dream was responsible for the Mario and Luigi series. Both of these series are great in their own right with notable high points. The first two Paper Mario games in particular are absolute classics to me, but with that said, they're just not Super Mario RPG. As amazing as some of them are, for better or for worse, the vibe is undeniably different. I can absolutely appreciate everything they do, and I'm sure many out there have similar memories with them as I do with Super Mario RPG. For that reason, I'm very happy they exist. They deserve their love and place in gaming history. However, that being said, I've just never been able to shake the feeling of, but what about Super Mario RPG? It's been nice to see Mario RPGs live on through the years, but I've always been holding out for a return to the world that made me fall in love with the genre. It's hard to believe that here in 2023, nearly 30 years after the original game came out, it's finally happening. While a true sequel is always what I've wanted, I'll absolutely take a full-blown remake of my favorite video game of all time. Not only so I can relive through the magic again, but so others can experience the magic for the first time as well. The game left such a lasting impact on me, and with the remake coming out today, I can only hope that it does the same for many other young gamers out there. Maybe in 20 or 30 years, I can watch some video on YouTube about the effect it had on some little 5-year-old kid with the whole wide world in front of them. Until then, Square, Nintendo, anyone else who worked on this game in some way, thanks for creating such a timeless classic that will always have a special place in my heart. May the good times and memories continue on to the next generation, and for future generations to come. Alright, and that about wraps up this video. Thanks for watching everyone, we hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please either consider hitting that like button or subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. What are your favorite memories with this game? Let us know in the comments below. For any first time viewers out there, this was a way different type of video than usual, so if you thought it was a little bit too personal in the beginning, don't worry, not all of our videos are like that. But yeah, the chill vibes are always the same though. Speaking of personal, in honor of the remake and for this video, we got my dad to play this game for the first time in like 25 years. Only the first 30 minutes though. He was a little rusty, you could say, and didn't remember much.
Is there a boss that sticks out to you?
Describe it the best way you possibly can.
Whether it was just like really tough or memorable from its just like design.
Little small guy with red coat on, or
Booster?
Booster?
Yeah, Booster!
Oh, how the student becomes a teacher. As always, just want to give a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters, and of course an extra special shout out to our top patrons, Derek Drost, Jesse Spencer, Jump Rock, and Saina. All of your support and generosity is very much appreciated. Other than that, thanks again for watching everyone, and hope you have an awesome day. This is Corbin from Gaming Productions. Until next time.
Time to go play some video games. I've been bored all day.